Hello, everybody,
I'm Heather,
and I'm Herbert,
and you are in
the
the Random
Random
Fandom
Fandom
Zone.
Zone. You are. So this is kind of the way we probably most likely do a lot of the casts is in different locations. And I'm trying this out to go side by side because I think that looks a whole lot better than when I talk, you see all of me, and then when you talk, you see all of you, and go back and forth. So that way you can kind of see the reactions when we talk about various things. So the good news as we just watched the season, maybe the series finale of the Orville. And why don't you talk a little bit about your thoughts about this third season of the Orville, Heather?
First of all, if you're watching, I'm here with cats. So if you see me looking or being weird, I'm here with cats. Um, okay, I really liked this season. I don't it was the best season. It was definitely an excellent season. Um, yeah, it was great.
I, and I,
Great storyline. Like again, tackling topics, but in a really entertaining way and in a way that makes you care and a way that kind of just involves you and makes you think things through. A really excellent season. I don't know if we should talk about this part, but like I like how the last episode, okay, a lot of times in a show you kind of lead up to the last episode and it's kind of big and dramatic and heavy hitting and sometimes even a little dark, and this one I feel like was a little bit lighter and kind of left us in a little bit more of just like a pleasant, happy place. And I don't know if they were thinking that because if this is the last season, like you say, as a whole series, it's a really good place to leave them. Bye, kitty. So, yeah, your general thoughts, first impressions as a whole?
I mean, a lot of us that love Star Trek and like all the stuff that's on Paramount with Discovery and Picard, what a pleasant way to watch a morality play, and that's what the original Star Trek series was. It was a morality play, and all these other things that are you know going on. Again, one of my friends said this a lot, and he was in film school, and he made this accusation. He said, I asked him, well, why are you making comedies? He says the world's bad enough as it is. I want to try to have some humor. I want to have some type of joy when I make films.
I wouldn't say the Orville's completely that. I mean, it does get real and gritty. I don't think it kind of hedges anything or plays it safe.
Well, at the end though, the morality play.
No, in the end, it wasn't a kind of very nice
Yeah.
place, but just in general, as a whole show.
I mean, you watch Discovery sometimes, and you feel like, boy, can I go on? It's just so some of it's just so depressing. It's like, oh my goodness, how much more can I watch of this and so forth. So with
That's how I
Orville,
felt about 1883. It's like, what?
yeah, it was tough to be a pioneer back in those days. But it also like this. Obviously, Seth MacFarlane, him and I are about the same age. It's like his jokes on Family Guy or American Dad or whatever. He puts out there. He's a lot of references to Star Trek, a lot of references to the A Team and things like that. So here is somebody that is basically sort of made a fan film, but with all the resources of Fox and also, let's just be honest, excellent writer. Whether you like Family Guy or not, Seth MacFarlane can write. He can write.
He can write,
And also,
definitely.
he's the captain, but really, unlike William Shatner, he's not stealing the show all the
No,
time.
it's really hard to think of like a captain based episode. I mean, he no, not at all. I mean, he gives a lot to the first officer. He gives a lot to the strong girl, to the Mocklin, to every like. It's very ensemble. It is very ensemble.
It's almost like watching Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was very happy to let everybody carry and be funny and further their career. Sam MacFarlane, of course he's going to be captain. Of course he's going to be captain. But of course he has some great guest stars in there, and we're going to say it's going to be spoilers at this point. By the time this comes out, anyways, it'll probably be
Well,
well.
and if you're watching our show, spoilers. That's the point. Like, I mean,
So like to get Ted Danza on there, to get Dolly Parton, which amazing scene.
it was an amazing scene.
You know just like, oh my goodness, well they made that happen,
And really cool to have like a guest star of somebody kind of 20th century on this future space show, and yet we're getting a contemporary guest star. That's not easy to pull off.
no, it's not. It really isn't. It's not easy to pull off at all. So it's kind of uh, it leaves you with a happy feeling on there. Like Discovery, every time the first couple of seasons I watched, and honestly, the last season I haven't even watched. I probably need to go watch it just so I can say that I've seen all the Star Trek stuff. Picard, you won't even give a chance, because I understand why. But it's almost like
I wouldn't say never, but it's a lot to try to get around.
the
It might be never. I don't know, but
the main reason why you need to watch it is to show how different when you let an actor that's not a writer have control over a magazine. Seth MacFarlane is a writer. He's a producer, director, actor, probably better on the producing writing side for sure than that. But he's not a horrible actor. He's not he's not
he's not bad.
But also like this, I love that I love that it's not the Captain Kirk show. It's like give the ensemble a chance to sign. You got all these great people.
They have all the characters have these great arcs that you get interested in them and their lives and what's going to happen, and you wonder after like a big episode, you kind of wonder how it's going to go in the future or how it's going, and mostly your questions get answered eventually.
And even the arc of the there's an arc between Isaac and the Doctor. There's an arc with the new lieutenant or ensign on the show. There's an arc with the Kalon versus the Union from the previous series. I think there's even an arc with the captain and the first officer in a small way.
The Mocklins have their own arc.
Which
again, they didn't even have to have that daughter there in that last episode, but they did.
Yeah.
They could have easily just said oh, we don't need her, it's not a big deal, but they did. So that she's there, you see how things are going. And
the first strong girl makes a special appearance. And I know you and I argue about, you prefer her over the new strong.
Well, again, the reasons why, and the new strong girl has kind of grown on me, actually, I guess this season. So I kind of like her better than when she first came on. My problems were I thought the first strong girl had more of an arc. I thought she played it more as someone young, someone figuring things out, someone learning. And I thought that the second strong girl one, I thought you're replace them with somebody different, not necessarily a girl of the same alien, very same-ish, but she kind of came in just a lot more confident, bordering on arrogance, is somebody who doesn't need an arc, doesn't need to learn, doesn't need to know, is just perfect. And that, I guess, always, because I'm always talking about this, I guess that kind of always turns me off. And I thought that the first girl was much more humble and just had more room to grow, more of an arc to discover with her. And even her story of getting that thing where she's got to stay on Celea because of her bone density, it's kind of interesting. And that one kind of horror movie episode with her was pretty choice. It was a good episode.
Well, I did a little bit of research on why she actually left the show, and I thought it was something else. The writers wanted her to leave.
Really?
And she wanted to respect the writing, because I guess they felt that she did whatever she needed to do, and they needed someone else that was either more mature, closer to the first officer's age or whatever, to kind of play that.
Okay, but it wasn't a personal thing against the actress. They just thought that character's time was.
And you saw she came back, so obviously.
It wasn't a bad blood thing. It was just hey, this kid, and she kind of felt if that's what the writers feel, then okay. But I disagree. I think she had a really interesting arc. I think there was more there.
Although why?
And again, then you say that she looked too young, and then they had that little 12-year-old on all season. That was. I'm sorry. And again, she's probably a good actor. I am sure with the right character that just married with her really well, she was probably good. I could see her really trying to have the gravitas of this super genius Union ensign, which made no sense, but she just didn't. I mean, she looked like a teenage little twit girl. I'm sorry, but it did not work. So like, why are they bringing her on and then saying that the young Chilean girl was just too young? Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she did have arc though, a serious arc, right?
No, she had an arc. She did have an arc.
And that's one thing that a lot of the bad TV.
And she wasn't a I hate to say it, like, she wasn't a horrible actress. She wasn't bad. She wasn't taking away from it. She just with that character's function, just, I don't know. She just needed a different character, I think. I think in a different vehicle, she probably would be much better.
Well, since you brought it up, who is the worst actor on the Orville?
Oh,
We haven't talked about that.
wow. Oh,
We talked
wow.
about that.
That's tough.
We talked about that on DS9, which we'll save for another
Oh
one.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
DS9, that's easy, but no, and we'll save it for later, but it's easy.
It's not the first officer. She's good.
She's good.
It's not Bortus. He's good.
No.
Not Isaac.
No, not the doctor.
Not the doctor. The helmsman, the guy with the beard.
Uh,
The guy that's the engineer guy.
I mean, I want to say no, but just by process of elimination,
Or is it?
I want to say no because I think he's fine, but
Or is it the captain?
is it the strong girl? It might be the strong girl for me. And again, I'm not like, she really did grow on me a lot this season. I liked her a lot better.
I don't know. I think she's
I
a
just
better
think of
actor.
everybody. Was she the one who was maybe phoning it in a little more? Maybe just a little
I think
overly confident, throwing her lines away?
Seth MacFarlane's the weakest actor.
I think maybe it's a strong girl. Maybe it's Seth MacFarlane.
But again,
Maybe it's a strong.
but through editing and writing, he can just deliver his lines like on the planet when the helmsman goes back in time and has a whole family and he's down there. You got to come with us, and very effective writing and so forth. So, but yeah, that's hard. It's hard to think who is the worst actor.
And again, like, we can say Seth MacFarlane, or we could maybe say strong girl, but like, there's not a weak link in the acting ensemble there.
No, I don't even really think of him as Seth MacFarlane.
No.
So like obviously it is him, and you kind of hear Brian's voice if you ever listen to Family Guy, because that's his natural voice.
I don't watch Family Guy,
so but yeah, it's they're really, I mean, most of the time when we talk about like Babylon 5, there's going to be like, I don't even know. I don't know. There's a lot of choices on that. DS9, we kind of figured out. We'll talk about that later on. The Next Generation, the original Star Trek. Anyway, Star Wars. We haven't talked about Star Wars either. So, but
that's not getting to be a big. I think you kind of got to pick your specific, which part of the Star Wars franchise you're talking about.
The original series.
Oh, original series. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even count the other ones.
Okay, fair enough.
Some people love the prequels, and the next ones. Even I thought it could be. I thought it can't be worse than the prequels.
You thought wrong.
I was wrong. Yeah. So, anyways, and there's a lot of problems, and the problems the problems that the Orville doesn't have is, I think it has to do with writing. The problems I had with Star Wars, the prequels and the sequels, were the writing.
Writing. Well, you and I, again, we always talk, and because this is how this podcast came to be, is because you and I kind of get into our fandoms, and we're the kind of people that can just sit there and sort of talk about them and go on. But you and I almost always, when we like something, come back to the writing. We usually, we're always like, yeah, that the writing is just so good.
1836, there was some strong acting, but the writing wasn't great. But the
writing was okay.
It was okay.
It wasn't horrible. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the best writing.
But I think that's what there's.
I mean, did we already mention that? Because we talked about Orville, the scene where Isaac actually gets emotion. And it would be so easy to make a horrible scene. Okay, from my Heather brain of it all, frankly, I like, whether it's the Data's in love episode or the Isaac's in love, I see it as like, okay, these are machines. And if you're telling me you're falling in love with them, there's something wrong with you. Like, this is something that cannot love you back. You have to know that. And if you are wanting to invest in someone that cannot love you back, there's a problem. However, having said that, so I never was a super, super big fan of the Doctor and Isaac, just because that's what I thought of Isaac. And then given Isaac's arc and some of the things that he does and goes through, I was never a big fan of Isaac. I don't like some of the things he does, and I don't particularly trust that character. So all of this is kind of going against them. And the fact that, frankly, again, I think the Doctor's an amazing actress. She's one of my favorite characters, but she's also not your young in love ingenue. You know, she's not typically who you think of as a love interest. So they have all of this going against them to begin with. And then writing this kind of one-off out of the blue, suddenly Isaac has feelings seen. It would be so easy, and so many writers, it would just be so trite and just garbage. And, you know, oh, I love you to the moon and back again kind of stuff. And they really write this very sweet scene that actually kind of makes you care, and you know, you really see something there, and it makes you disappointed when it doesn't work out. And I think that is really hard to do in a love scene that's a little bit isolated and one-off like that, and with everything else to me in this couple that's going against it, to just come up with a scene like that that can make the audience, you know, really invest, really sort of be disappointed that it doesn't. I thought it was fabulous. I mean, I thought it was really strong writing. A really
the writing,
yeah.
but also again, both those actors brought it, and it wasn't.
They brought it.
It was not a lesser actor, a young actor, bad direction. You know, I mean, there's a reason why Seth MacFarlane got those two individuals to be those actors in those parts.
My weakest actor, I don't know if you want to count her, would be the little ensign that got killed off this season. Now, I don't know if you want to count her because she's only in this season. She's not in all of Orville.
Well,
she stands out as the weakest actress. So and again, it might just be that it's just not a character that's a good fit. But
so the third season, that's the weakest actor for you. Yeah, you know, the special effects are
even his. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Yeah, but even the is it Krill? The Krill girl?
Yeah.
Isn't it? She brings it.
I mean, the bad guys are pretty good.
The bad guys bring it.
Yeah, the bad guys are good, you know, so
yeah. The Mocking girl that's the head of that colony brings it.
Fantastic, you know, fantastic.
I mean, she brings it, dude. She brings it.
You know, you know, the art direction. I tell you, because we watched them together for that first episode of them being on the planet for the high school and stuff. I was just thinking, I'm not sure where this is going, but
you know, I think that's one of those episodes. Like when you watch it the first time, I think for me, and I'm an X-Files fan, it's a little interesting because you don't know what's happening or what's going on. But I do think, like, once you've kind of seen it, it's probably not one that you really feel like, oh, I need to see that again, or that was so incredible. Like once you know the trick of it, what actually happens and what it was about, you're a lot more like, okay.
A lot of the fans have just mentioned every episode's gotten better and better and better.
It's hard to disagree with that. It is hard to disagree with that.
And it's better to build up to that crescendo than to go to that diminuendo.
Yeah, and you know, as much as I would consider Orville among all-time favorites ever. It's certainly, if I was going to make a all-time favorites ever, it would be nominated, big time. It would be on the short list.
And you never would think that with Seth MacFarlane.
I would have never thought that when I started watching Orville. And I think, like, I kind of almost didn't want to. And like I started it, I was like, no. And you were like, Heather, it grows up. It's fun. Like it finds its feet. It becomes something different. And then I was like, oh, it did.
The pilot, and then the first episode and a half, they kind of had the human.
It's something that I'm saying is like so good. And like, again, definitely on my if we ever do a list of all-time best, definitely on the nomination. Like, it's just amazing. And as much as I want more of that, do I want more, or do I want it to be like, that was it? It was sublime. It was, that's where it needs to be. Like, that's,
people sometimes complain how Hollywood spends a lot of money on particular talent. Imagine Seth MacFarlane writing Picard, writing Discovery, making the new Star Trek episode series. All his creative mental power would have gone into that and probably maybe surpass the Next Generation. And that's
You
why
know,
that
in ways, there are things about Orville that are better. I mean, it's definitely across the board as far as consistent quality, it's better. You know, Star Trek, I don't really think Next Generation ages that well.
no.
I don't find myself going back to it a lot. I have fond memories of these kind of fuzzy teddy bear characters. It created a world that I enjoyed, that you felt comfortable with, that you wanted to be a part of that world, a part of that group of people. But really, as far as episodes that I just want to revisit, no, I don't really do rewatches.
Really, honestly, the original series has that ability for us Star Trek super fans. DS9.
I could see doing a rewatch of DS9.
DS9, especially once Worf comes in the third season.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get through the first season of Babylon 5, it may be something that you're like, oh, okay, all right. That one you got to earn. Babylon 5. I'm sorry, Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. At the time, I loved it. And every once in a while, when I go back and watch an episode, there's moments in there of great acting and great writing. But I think the other thing that we talked about a lot as well, got 10 episodes, got 14 episodes. So we're not doing 26 episodes like they had to do with Next Generation for 7 years. And
that's true. I mean, you should consider that with Next Generation. You know, Orville has what it has, and Next Generation had just a much bigger body of work.
If they could have only done 12 episodes every season for Next Generation, we wouldn't have got Shaka City. Where are you from?
What's the name of that episode? Oh, the episode where, I don't know.
Data
had this thing. I can't even explain it. It's that plotless. The Mask. It was called Mask. Yeah. It had him, and he was like these gods that were chasing each other. It made no sense. It was, and well, again, we should do. I want to go into it more, but we should do like a worst episodes of Next Gen and a best episodes of Next Gen, because let's be fair to Next Gen. But I will say this now. Well, again, you get these more limited shows that tend to perhaps have higher quality. And again, I know our experience and the way we watch things is totally different now, but there is something in the way of watching Next Gen and the relationship that I have to it, and I think that you do too, because we had to watch it at the time that it was airing, and we had to watch it weekly over years of our lives. And again, because we were kind of younger people, I think it was something that was much more formative, and I have a very different relationship with that than the Orville that I can just stream and I can binge. And
the summer of the best of both worlds in between that, I mean, that's something that that whole summer I was dreaming and speculating what could happen. Now, sadly, and we'll talk about this more later on, that the second episode is not as powerful as the first episode, but it was kind of more of a letdown. But I had all these amazing things that I had envisioned, but I had 3-4 months to go through there and figure out how would I solve it. Today, unless I decide not to click a button, which we're all going to click the button to go to the next episode, you're right, our relationships with these, and again, I much prefer, and we've talked about this as well, less is more, get to your point, whatever it's better to not leave your audience, it's better to have your audience wanting more than to have them start to get bored.
Which is a big theme of extras, but that's another show to talk about.
Yeah, getting things are getting bored. Yeah, so Orville, if you're a big Star Trek fan, especially and we're big Star Trek fans,
especially a Next Gen fan,
you would like this. And the way they deal with contemporary issues is again well written, and just like it was back in the original series with Gene Roddenberry. And sadly, this week, a couple of days ago, Lieutenant Uhura passed away, and So,
R.I.P.
um, and she talks about how she was going to quit the show. You probably, I guess you know that when
I know that, yes.
they posted all, and
Yeah, it's all over Facebook.
Gene Roddenberry said, "Well, you know what I'm trying to do, right?" Anyway, so she was going to go do this big musical. She didn't even remember what it was, you know, um, and she goes to a party, and Martin Luther King's there, and said, "That's the only show I'll allow my kids to watch, and you can't quit. You cannot quit that show." And it goes back and stays for the rest of the time on there. Um, and so at the time, Gene Roddenberry knew what he was talking about. Through the guise of science fiction, you could talk about a lot of the things that were going on in society at the time. But again, in a well-written, interesting way, not a way that I remember in film school they would use that term preachy. Whatever you're
Yeah,
trying
it's
to
not
say.
preachy. You don't feel bad about yourself. And while you might kind of examine things from another perspective, you don't feel bad about any of your particular core values because you watch this episode. Like it doesn't make you feel bad about who you are as a person when you watch the Orville, even though you might go like, oh, like that's maybe not.
Well, one thing that the teacher also said in film school, which is I don't know where he got it from, but he said, if a film is done correctly, there's no need to go to church.
Mhm.
And so the idea that you have this morality plays going on, and you're talking about the human condition in a way, and I think that, and that one thing also like this is that one of the other thing I got out of film school is that um, have something to say with whatever you make. And I think Seth MacFarlane is having something to say about contemporary issues in a well-written way, unlike Picard or Discovery. When you get a chance to those are just so heavy-handed on what you're trying to say that it's like it doesn't work. And I'm not even sure. And for me, Seth MacFarlane knows what he's trying to say, and
Mhm.
knows his beliefs. I think a lot of times these writers are just writing stuff because it seems like it's an issue that everybody's talking about.
And he seems like, I think it feels different when you're a writer who kind of knows and really understands whatever kind of thing they're kind of trying to address. It reads much differently than someone who just is preaching from this point of view.
Yes.
My basic, and again, man, this is so bad. I apologize to anybody watching this for all of my lack of knowledge. But an example of this is Sia did a movie called Music, about this autistic girl. And then there's this other movie, and I should know the name of it, and we should totally check it out. And it's also about an autistic girl. Other movie. The girl is a really big Star Trek fan, and she's autistic in one of her huge ways and I have not seen this movie, so this is like all kind of just by reviews and things, but that she relates to Star Trek, and she can quote Star Trek, and she kind of tries to communicate through Star Trek. And the Sia movie, which is called Music, has really been criticized a lot, by the autistic community, by everybody. But it feels to me, and again, I don't think Sia did it in the way that she's criticized, or in any way that maybe it came off. I just think maybe Sia didn't do enough research, and there were a lot of things that she didn't understand. And I think she probably had all good intentions of wanting to bring awareness and good things, I think, is what Sia intended. I just think that perhaps she didn't understand enough, she didn't research enough, she didn't involve herself enough with enough collaborators to present a really well-rounded piece. Whereas this one with the Star Trek girl, and again, I saw an interview with Dakota Fanning is the one who acts the girl, where like she even said, like, this wasn't about me playing autistic, this was about me playing this character. And she is autistic, but she's other things too, and she's this and she's that. And I approached her like a character, and I approached her like a person. I didn't approach her like I'm autism. Whereas again, it's kind of in the movie Music, which I did see, it really feels more like the character is more just like, I am autism. I'm just embracing all stereotypes of autism. Now, again, I don't think that was anybody's intention. I don't think that was done cruelly. I don't think that was done to make fun of anybody. I just think it was done kind of from lack of thinking it through, lack of research, lack of collaboration. But that's, I think, the difference in a piece you like, something that's really well written, something like the Orville, and something where you just feel is trite and didactic.
You know, the actress again. I think this podcast shows how bad I know I'm at actors names and shows names. But the actress that played Jesse's girlfriend in Breaking Bad, and
And I don't know what I mean. I know her, but I don't know her name
and
either.
she had the superhero show that I'm even
Yeah.
blanking on right now. That David,
Jessica Jones?
yeah,
Wasn't she
David,
Jessica Jones?
yeah, David
I
Tennant
know
was on it.
that. I know that.
So David Tennant was the bad guy in that. Anyways, seeing her at a comic convention, you know, you think, okay. And remember, we watched the Blacklist, and there was, and she was on it. We didn't know that was her. We didn't, for what I don't know what we didn't recognize her until she looks familiar. Then finally we figured, oh, that was Jesse's girlfriend in Breaking Bad. She was just that girl. She stole that show from, you know, the Blacklist guy. Again, I don't remember his name, but yeah. But anyways,
And I should know his name. He was from The Practice. He's good. He is really good.
Excellent actor. And she, and at the comic convention, she talked about how she got an acting coach, how she spent 6 months getting into character for Jessica Jones. And what that told, and again, my little area of acting, what it really showed me is that just like you have professional writers and professional producers and people that do lighting and cinematography and all that stuff, the actors that are good, that are really good, devote a tremendous amount of time to get to that area where you need to be at to make that happen. And that's why she's so good. And I don't know what she's doing now, but whatever she's going to be in, I know it's going to be good. Ruth from Ozark, don't know her, haven't saw her at comic convention or anything like that. I'm going to guess similar, that she invested.
Oh, anything, if she's in it, I'm gonna watch it. Like, I'm at least gonna check it out, because yeah, she's.
But she either works with an acting coach, gets into it, gets mentally prepared to be that part. And you know, a lot of things like the way you walk, the way you hold your body. When you look at Ruth on Ozark, and then was it the Russian one? I forgot the name.
Inventing Anna.
Yeah, Anna. The way she, even when she's in the prison outfits and stuff like that, I mean, it's a completely different character and so forth. So on Orville, I'm not sure if anybody needed devoted 6 months of their life to kind of get mentally into this or not. But now in the third season, and again, they rebrand it, right? It's Dark Horizons.
New Horizons.
New Horizons. Because they kind of got rid of the standard jokes, and there's still humor in it.
No, there's still, and I actually kind of like that. It's not too much, and it's not your kind of frat boy humor, but it's part of the reason I love Orville, that I find it so charming, is it is kind of sprinkled with a few sort of humorous moments that are very endearing.
When you have Borders comes out as Elvis.
Yeah.
Or tells these horrible toast, all kidding aside. And then it's anything horrible, all kidding aside. You know, it just works.
Or when so well. Isaac invites all the Kalon, like
you invited the whole planet?
The whole planet.
It's not going to fit into the holodeck or whatever.
And even when she told off the guy who was giving Isaac advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
No. That would never have happened like that in the Next Generation.
No.
And that's a real.
Next Generation. There are very few lighter moments and lighter episodes, and I think a lot of times they're fan favorites. But I don't know. I think there were some people that were kind of not fans, like some, I don't know if it was professional people involved with the Next Generation who didn't like the Robin Hood episode because they just thought it was too silly and too ridiculous, which I think is sort of charming. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the heaviest hitting Next Gen, but
it's a Q episode.
It's a Q episode. Come on, everybody loves a Q episode. And
then, I am not a married man.
I am not a married man.
And then didn't he break Geordie's lute and says sorry?
Yeah.
And that's a ripoff from Animal House. if you never saw John Belushi, some guy's playing and John Belushi's drunk or whatever, and he takes the guitar and breaks it, hands it back. Sorry. So I know that's the reference. They got that reference from Animal House. But anyway, so yeah, it's the Orville is really well done.
It hits that note between being very heavy hitting and dramatic and even dark. It doesn't really pull punches, and having its lighter sprinkled with humor. And I think that's one of the things I love about it. It's very textured. The other show that's a little bit like that is Firefly.
Yes, and sadly that didn't get. You know,
yeah, we'll talk about that another time. Yeah.
If they would have had it today in this type of syndication, maybe that show could have got more than 12 episodes. The one thing I like this again, if you don't know, I do background work in LA.
Ding, 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 ding. When will Herb mention background work today?
And when I was
when, how far into the episode to what we're doing, and how many times is Herb gonna mention I do background work in a way where I do background work?
When I was on the Fox Studios set, I talked to a few people that actually worked on the Orville, and the Orville was going on there, and they basically said how relaxed Seth MacFarlane is. Like they have a director, but really kind of the director's kind of looking at Seth MacFarlane a little bit. But you know, on Next Generation, they had this rule, and you probably know this, that you can add a contraction. So it says cannot, you can say can't, because the script supervisor.
I'm told me again. I don't know. I wasn't there. That they had to be word for word.
And if not, they had to get permission.
A synonym, like none of that. It was
if you changed a word like a contraction, you had to get permission from the writer. So apparently, like on, Babylon 5, that wasn't the case, because they cared about the emotion of sorry, Battlestar Galactica, they cared about the emotion, so they didn't have to go through there and beg that writer. No, man, whatever works, you're the actor, if it works for the scene, go with it. And I'm going to guess the same thing probably on the Orville, that if they did a contraction or made it the way that they should say it.
You're probably right, but you are just guessing.
Well, Seth MacFarlane's the one that wrote all the episodes for the most part, and he's there. So you can just ask him right there. He said, yeah, you go. He's going to say, yeah, go with it. Is he going to tell the doctor that she can't say lines?
Yeah, you can read everybody's mind. I got it.
Well, anyway, what I'm saying, though, is it's a more natural feeling of being able to own. I guarantee the guy with the beard, he's improvising some of his lines sometimes. He's going with it, just because the energy and life he has compared to some of the other actors on there.
Well, so, I don't know. I wasn't there.
So anyways, Orville, the penultimate episode where the ensign dies.
Good. Great episode. I don't mean good she dies, although I didn't care for her that much, but a good episode.
I mean, building up to this big, Kaylon battle, and there's that redemption goes on. And
going through one episode and really turning the tables of that whole world of, like, all of the allies and alignments, like in one way just went whoosh, and
now,
like
we did make an argument. Okay, you got Isaac and the ensign, the only two people that could control that machine, and they're on a ship together.
Okay. The story is you have these Kaylon robots that are horrible and have, like, they already had this massive war, I guess, where they, killed lots of people. They're a huge threat to the Federation. So Isaac and this one ensign on the Orville. Okay, keep going now.
That can think fourth dimensionally. The only one that can think. And she, so they have one machine to keep the.
They together, this fourth dimensional thinking ensign and Isaac build this weapon that can just basically wipe out all the Kaylons. Like, given enough energy, it can just, like, if they get close enough to Kaylons within, hundreds of thousands of miles, it disrupts their something, and it just, they're gone. So they together have created this weapon. Okay, go on.
So they got one device. I'm thinking, I thought they had a lot of them. I thought they had multiple, but apparently only those two could run that device, and they put that device in storage, and it gets stolen, and then Ted Danza gets blown up by giving it away. Anyways, so it in a lot of ways, just did make a lot of sense in some
Well, it
aspects.
didn't make sense that they wouldn't make more of that weapon before they do anything with it. It didn't make sense that this super genius fourth dimensionally thinking ensign would be an ensign on the Orville and not on Earth at some university doing research.
Yeah, or or some weapons area or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, something.
Yeah, so but again, you do give conventions for they are talking about flying in space and stuff like that. So there are conventions that you do give for shows like that. So yeah, well done. I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, I like the season where they went back in time. He did that. I like that one a lot.
That was a good season. That season reminds me a lot. I don't know if it was deliberate, but it has very City on the Edge of Forever vibes of like you go
Oh,
back in time and then you meet
but
this love of your life and this family and this life that you can have, but then you got to play that against timelines and the future. And anyway, it's an excellent episode.
and even on
Just
that
as
one,
City on the Edge of Forever is an excellent episode.
they told him that okay, we're just gonna go back in time and get you before this happened.
Yeah, before you're like this.
And he's like, no, no, and he's got his blaster with him or whatever, but I guess he didn't use it, and then the timelines changed. But you know what? It is science fiction. Maybe that was a split timeline, and maybe they are actually living happily ever after in that one. So um, they have references like the girl in that one was the girl that he found that cell phone and basically built a holodeck around in season 2. And then of course Dolly Parton's song "9 to 5" was big for the Mocklins, the female
Which
Mocklin.
is another one of those moments that I just think is so genius. And so for me, I love this kind of like that they have this Mocklin woman who I don't know, would you call her a refugee? Anyway, she's kind of snuck out and she's helping other young girls and baby Mocklins sneak out um and um she meets Seth MacFarlane and I forget a lot of details. And they're talking through things and she's just amazed because he's like, oh yeah, like on Earth women are cool, like we let them do things, we let them like we have women who have contributed to science and history and art, like everything, it's cool. And she's just amazed like that women aren't just like erased from everything and like anything at all. And so he pulls up this thing of like, here's like songs that are written by women artists, and she kind of just randomly chooses one, and it's Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, which is hilarious. Like this woman, like 9 to 5, and she just for her it resonates. It kind of just it becomes her anthem, and I love how it's both hilarious that she's singing this Dolly Parton 9 to 5, and yet when you watch that episode, you truly see how much that means to her, and you get it, and you understand it, and you see why this becomes her anthem and why Dolly Parton becomes so significant to her, even though on the one hand it's just so rich and so layered with the kind of humor of it, and then the also genuine, deeply felt scenes that are created from her singing 9 to 5, and then from her going on to meet Dolly Parton. And
Yeah, so they have things that they introduce and they tag back, like the Kermit the Frog's still on his desk, the captain's desk,
yeah,
and so those things that haven't gone away. So just well done, Seth MacFarlane. I really hope you get another season. If you'd like to be on the Random Fandom Zone podcast, we'd love to talk to you. And if you ever have some background work that I need, I don't know what alien could I do? Could I do a Mocklin? Could I
you could be a Mocklin.
do a Mocklin? All right. Just like I don't think I can pull off an Isaac. I don't Kalon.
You
But
could, I don't know. Anyway,
well, the one last thing on that, I think a lot of us were big fans of Norm Macdonald, and fortunately, he was able to record all his lines. I'm sure they shot this, well before the pandemic, and so it was kind of nice to see him and hear his voice, and he cracked some jokes and things like that. So that
and he's another character that's kind of almost silly, almost ridiculous, and you want to laugh, and then who really becomes important and does some, really important things and has an arc. So another one of those just really textured things about the Orville.
I really hope if they get another season, they could find a way to recycle some of Norm Macdonald's lines, because let's be honest, he's a comedian. He had a lot of one-liners throughout his whole career. So if the Norm Macdonald estate would allow them to use some of his one-liners every once in a while, that would be great to have him on the ship still. And so, anyways, this is just the fantastic series. Obviously, Seth MacFarlane's friends with Patrick Stewart because he's a recurring voice on American Dad. But obviously, I'm sure Patrick Stewart has complete, Paramount pretty much owns him in the television realm or streaming realm. So, uh, and this season we really didn't get, at least I didn't notice anybody seriously from Star Trek as previous episodes. Like we had Troy show up on season 2, and
I don't know if Jonathan directed. He's directed before. I don't know if he directed.
I think he did at least one this season. I think he at least did one this season, and so anyways, it has that vibe and so forth. So if you're into science fiction and you haven't tried out Orville, you probably have, honestly, if you probably heard enough of it.
I haven't met a lot of people who have, but again, I may not hang out with the science fiction crowd. So,
well, I think this season will get a lot of us show Hulu that there's definitely another 12 episodes in them that they could do something, and it'd be interesting to see what they do with the Mocklin and the Krill, right? And how that would how we can unify the whole universe before you call it a day with that. And if not, maybe they can do like a Firefly and do at least a movie every once in a while. So hopefully this won't be the series finale, and hopefully we'll get another season down the line. So, well, anything else you want to say about the Orville?
I would recommend 10 out of 10. Check it out.
Yeah, I recommend it highly. It's on Hulu right now, all 3 seasons. So if you don't got Hulu, I know they got like a 7-day trial, and you can go watch. Honestly, you can probably watch all of them in 7 days if you just pretty much that was all you're going to watch in the next couple of days and whatnot. So thank you so much again for watching the Random Fandom Zone. If you like this podcast, please make sure you share that with all your friends, all your family, everybody that likes podcasts, because we'd like to have more people check this out and everything. So for the Random Fandom Zone, thank you for watching.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla!